Neighbors get an eyeful when Nuddist steps outside. Dear Abby, we have a male neighbor I'll call Flash, who frequently walks out to get his newspaper, or the mail, or to retrieve something from his car while he's as naked as the day he was born. He's in his late 50s and divorced. Some of the women in the neighborhood know not to look towards Flash's home if they're out for a walk. They have discovered that he is most likely in the buff, standing at his glass door or sitting at his front office computer with the door open. Flash is otherwise a likable and helpful neighbor. We hesitate to say anything. We do not want to say anything that might destroy that relationship. It's not against the law to be a nudist or for a woman to go topless in public in this city. However, to see a fella streak to his car is a little surprising and unsettling, even for another adult. In the normal course of things, he may be spotted in the nude once a week. I can only assume this goes on daily, but thankfully, our paths don't cross more than once a week. Is this something we should be concerned about? Startled in Austin, Texas. Okay, let's do the commentary for the nudist lesson. Kind of a funny Dear Abby letter. Okay, here we go. So, imagine this situation. You are living in your neighborhood, probably a nice little suburban neighborhood, little nice houses, and one of your neighbors is always naked. He walks to his mailbox, he's naked. He walks to his car to get something, he's naked. He opens his windows or his doors, you can see him naked inside his house. Would this bother you? Now, I did this lesson in my class here in San Francisco. Most of my students are Asian, so I think Asian society, Asian cultures in general, are more conservative, more worried about nudity or nakedness compared to, let's say, Europe might be on the other side. In my experience, European people seem more relaxed about this kind of thing. And Americans probably in the middle. Europeans think we are too worried about nudity and nakedness, and Asian people probably think we're too liberal, too open about it. So anyway, it's always interesting with Dear Abby letters in my classes because I get to see the opinions of other students from other cultures. I'd say most of my students, I have a combination. I have a lot of Japanese students, a lot of Korean students, a lot of Thai students, and a lot of Mongolian students. And I just got a German student, but not so many Europeans, a few sometimes, and then a fair number of students from South America also. Right now I have one student from Paraguay. So they always have different ideas about these Dear Abby letters based on their personal values and also sometimes based on their culture. So anyway, what do you think? I would like you go to the forums and write, what should they do about this? Should they ignore him? It's no problem, right? So what? He's in the buff. It doesn't matter. The human body is natural. Why should we worry if the man is in the buff? So maybe they should not worry about this fella, right? Not worry about this guy just because he's in the buff. So what? They feel a little unsettled. They feel a little upset, but not much. So maybe it's not a big problem. Especially in this city, it's not against the law. It's not illegal. Or maybe you have another idea. Maybe you think that, oh wow, this is terrible, right? So in my class, some people mention children. What if children in the neighborhood see this man naked? Maybe this man has some weird problem. Why does he want people to see him naked all the time? Why is he doing this? Why does he want that attention? Maybe he has some kind of strange problem. Is he wanting women to look at him, or what is it? So other people in my class, thought it was definitely a problem and that the neighbors should do something. So, I guess you might have other ideas. Maybe you think it's a problem, maybe you don't. But anyway, go to the forums and write your opinion. What do you think should be done in this situation? Now, if you want to talk about a more serious topic, this is kind of a funny article, obviously, not so serious. But there is another serious issue which is connected to this, I think. And that is the idea of consensual behavior. And sometimes we call it in English consensual crimes if something is against the law, if it is illegal. And consensual means you agree, to agree. So consensual, it's an adjective. It means something that is agreed. So let's say, let me think of an example. Okay, for example, drug use is a very good example. Drug use, using, let's say, heroin, a very strong example. Heroin or cocaine. This is a crime, right? In most countries, it's a crime. The police will grab you if you have cocaine. They will take you to jail. They will punish you. Is that right? Because using cocaine, using drugs, is a consensual crime. What does that mean? It means you're not hurting another person, right? You are only deciding for yourself, right? You agree for yourself to use cocaine. Maybe you sell it to another person. Well, if it's an adult, then you both are consenting. That's the verb. To consent means to agree. Well, you both consent to buy and sell the drug, right? Nobody's forcing you. Nobody's hurting you. You're not hurting them. They are not hurting you. Nobody's being using violence or guns or in any way. Everybody agrees. I agree I have the cocaine. I want to sell it. And you agree you want to buy it. It's a consensual crime. It's a crime. The police will arrest you. But it's a consensual crime. It's different than a violent crime, right? If you hurt another person, if you hit them and take their money, that's not a consensual crime. The person did not agree. They did not ask you to hit them. They did not ask you to take their money. That's not consensual. But selling and using drugs for adults, we're not talking about children, we're talking about adults, that is consensual. It's totally consensual. So a lot of people in America, especially in the United States, they think, well, we should not punish consensual crimes. If somebody wants to use cocaine, if somebody chooses to become a drug addict, that's their problem, right? We should not put them in jail. That's their choice. It's a stupid choice, probably, but it's still their choice. They are adults. They are consenting to do this. They are choosing to do it. They are agreeing. So we should not waste time. We should not waste money with police, paying the police to catch them and then put them in jail. In jail, we spend a lot of money. We have to pay for their food. We have to pay for the building. We have to pay for the guards, right, to watch them. It's very, very expensive. So some people in the United States say, look, forget consensual crimes. We should not worry about consensual crimes. We should focus only on violent crimes or direct crimes. So if you steal someone's money, maybe it's not violent. Maybe you don't hurt them. You secretly take their money. But still, there was no consent. It's not consensual. They did not agree. They did not ask you, okay, please take my money. So there is this division, this difference in these kinds of crimes, consensual crimes and non-consensual crimes. Do you agree with this idea? Do you think that more focus, more attention, more money, more energy should be focused on direct crimes, non-consensual crimes, and less money, less time, less energy on consensual crimes? For example, drugs, for example, sexual crimes, like prostitution, things like that, things that both people agree to do what they're doing. Anyway, it's a very interesting idea. Different countries have different ideas about this. A few countries in Europe also have this idea. I think Amsterdam is the most famous example. I think Portugal and even England to some degree, somewhat, have this idea, especially about what they call soft drugs like marijuana, alcohol, tobacco. they don't worry about these. These are consensual crimes. They don't worry too much about them. Same with prostitution. If a woman chooses to take money for sex, they don't worry about it. Both people are agreeing. They don't care so much. They focus more on violent crimes and direct crimes. But I know that, living in a country like Thailand, I live there in Asia, it's quite different. There and in Japan and other countries, the idea is more of, everybody must follow the same rules. And society will be damaged and destroyed if we let people choose these bad things. We cannot let people make bad choices. That's another idea. I guess that's the idea of... So I guess we have two ideas. One is the government should be a parent, and the citizens are like children. So we must not let them make bad choices. And then another idea, is that the government is a collection of citizens, and individual citizens are adults and can make their own decisions. Anyway, so there you go. There's a lot of topics to write about in the forums and think about. We have the basic issue of the man in the buff, the neighbor. We have the idea of consensual crimes and non-consensual crimes, right? Things that people choose freely and things that are not chosen. And then we have this idea of government as parent or government as servant, serving the people. All right, you can write about any of those. Those are some small topics and big topics. Okay, well, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Okay, welcome to the mini-story lesson for Nuddist. Let's get started. Sarah longs for a fella named Bobby. She loves him deeply. But Bobby lives in Norway, and Sarah lives in San Francisco. Every day, Sarah thinks about Bobby and feels unsettled. Finally, she decides she must see him to be happy. She flies to Norway to retrieve him and bring him back to San Francisco. She spots him at a beach. She wants to run to him, but she hesitates because he's in the buff. She's shocked and startled because he's with a beautiful, busty woman who is also in the buff. Sarah starts to cry. Then she runs away. She returns to San Francisco. Sarah and Bobby never cross paths again. All right, let's go up to the top with questions. Sarah longs for a fella named Bobby. Sarah longs for Bobby. Does she want him very, very much? Yes, that's right. She longs for him. She wants him very, very much. She thinks about him all the time. She longs for him. Does Sarah long for David? Does she want David a lot? No. She doesn't long for David. She longs for Bobby. She really wants Bobby. She really, really needs and wants Bobby. She longs for Bobby. Sarah longs for a fella named Bobby. Does she long for a man named Bobby? Yes, exactly right. She wants a man named Bobby. Does she want a guy named Bobby? Yes, that's right. She wants a fella named Bobby. She wants a fella named Bobby. Does she long for a fella named Jim? No, she doesn't want a guy named Jim. Does she want a fella named AJ? No. She doesn't want a fella named AJ. She wants a fella named Bobby. Why does she want a fella named Bobby? Well, she wants a guy named Bobby, because she loves him deeply, very much. But there's a problem. Bobby lives in Norway, and Sarah lives in San Francisco. However, every day, Sarah thinks about Bobby, and she feels unsettled. Does she feel very, very, very upset? Well, actually, no. No. Unsettled does not mean very, very upset. It means just a little upset. She feels a little strange, a little upset, a little nervous and sad, maybe. So she feels unsettled. She feels a little wrong, but not a lot. Still, every day she feels unsettled. Does she feel unsettled only on Monday? No. She doesn't feel a little bad on Monday only. She feels unsettled every day. She feels a little bit strange, a little bad every day. Why does she feel unsettled? Well, she feels unsettled, she feels a little bad, because she misses Bobby. She's thinking about Bobby. She loves Bobby. But Bobby is in in Norway, and she is in San Francisco, right? They live apart. They live far away. That's why she feels unsettled. Does she feel unsettled because she ate something bad? No, she didn't eat anything bad. Her stomach's okay. She feels unsettled because she misses Bobby. She's sad about Bobby. Well, she feels unsettled every day she feels unsettled. Finally, she decides she must see him. She must see Bobby to be happy. So, she flies to Norway to retrieve him. Does she plan to stay in Norway? No, she wants to retrieve him. She wants to get Bobby and bring him back to San Francisco. Right? She doesn't want to stay in Norway. She wants to retrieve him, get him, and bring him back to San Francisco. Does she want to retrieve her brother? No. She's not trying to get her brother and bring him back to San Francisco. She wants to retrieve Bobby, right? Why does she want to retrieve Bobby? Well, she wants to retrieve him because she loves him and misses him. She wants him to come back to San Francisco. So she wants to retrieve Bobby. When she flies to Norway, who does she want to retrieve? Well, she flies to Norway to retrieve Bobby. Okay, very good. She flies to Norway to retrieve Bobby and bring him back to San Francisco. She looks for him everywhere, in the cities, everywhere. But finally, she spots him at a beach. Does she see him at a beach? Yes, that's exactly right. She spots him at a beach. She sees him at a beach. Maybe the beach has many people. She's looking. Finally she spots him. Does she spot him in the city? No. She does not see him. She does not spot him in the city. Does she spot him in a car? No, she does not spot him in a car. Where does she spot him? Well, she spots him at a beach. When she spots him, is he alone? No. She spots him with another woman, right? Who does she spot at the beach? Well, she spots Bobby at the beach, right? And when she spots him, when she sees him, she wants to run to him, but she hesitates. Why does she hesitate? She hesitates because he's in the buff. He's naked. He has no clothes. Does she wait? Does she stop? Or does she run to him immediately? Well, she hesitates. She waits, right? She wants to run to him. She starts to go, but then she stops. She waits. She hesitates. She hesitates to run. Why does she hesitate to run to Bobby? Well, she hesitates because he's in the buff. He's naked. Is he wearing clothes? No. He's in the buff. No clothes. Is Bobby wearing a swimsuit? No, Bobby is not wearing a swimsuit. He is in the buff. He's in the buff. He is naked. He has no clothes. Does Sarah see other people in the buff? Yes, she does. She sees another person. She sees a beautiful, busty woman who is also in the buff. Does this woman have large breasts? Yes, she does. In fact, she's busty woman. She's a busty woman. Does the woman have a flat chest? A flat chest, very small breasts. No, no, no. She's a busty woman. She has large breasts. She's a very busty woman. Does Sarah hesitate because she sees Bobby naked with a busty woman? Yeah, that's right. That's exactly why she waits. That's exactly why she hesitates. She hesitates because she sees him in the buff, and he is with a busty woman who is also in the buff, who also has no clothes. That's why she hesitates and waits. After she hesitates, what does Sarah do? Well, after she hesitates, she sees him, and then she starts to cry. Oh, no! Sarah starts to cry. Then she runs away. She does not run to Bobby. She runs away. She returns to San Francisco alone. Sarah and Bobby never cross paths again. In the future, do Sarah and Bobby meet again? No, they never meet again. They never cross paths again. Do they see each other again sometime in the future? No, no, no. They never cross paths again. They never meet again. They never see each other again. Does Sarah cross paths with Bobby again? No! She never crosses paths with Bobby again. Sarah never crosses paths with Bobby again. Does Sarah cross paths with the naked woman again? Does she cross paths with the naked woman, the busty woman again? Well, maybe, but no, actually no, she doesn't. She never sees the busty naked woman, the busty woman in the buff, never sees her again either. She never crosses paths with Bobby or with the naked woman. Does Sarah cross paths with her mother in the future? Well, yes, probably, of course. She meets her mother a lot. She crosses paths with her mother many times. So they always cross paths, no problem. But she never crosses paths with Bobby again. Sarah and Bobby never cross paths again. They never meet again. All right, let's go back to the beginning. This time, I'll pause after the key words, the key phrases. Please repeat the phrase after me. Don't only repeat, please copy my pronunciation. Listen for my intonation. When do I go up? And when do I stretch? And when do I drop? Listen for that and copy it. Here we go. Sarah longs for a fella named Bobby. Sarah longs for a fella named Bobby. Good. She loves him deeply. But Bobby lives in Norway and Sarah lives in San Francisco. Every day, Sarah thinks about Bobby and feels unsettled. Every day, Sarah thinks about Bobby and feels unsettled. Finally, she decides she must see him to be happy. She flies to Norway to retrieve him. She flies to Norway to retrieve him. Good. She flies to Norway to retrieve him and bring him back to San Francisco. She spots him at a beach. Good. She spots him at a beach. Good. Copy that intonation. She spots him at a beach. She wants to run to him, but she hesitates. She wants to run to him, but she hesitates. Good. She hesitates because he's in the buff. She hesitates because he's in the buff. Very good. She's shocked and startled. She's shocked and startled. Good. She's shocked and startled, she's surprised, because he's with a beautiful, busty woman. Good. Because he's with a beautiful, busty woman. Good. She's startled because he's with a beautiful, busty woman who is also in the buff. Good. She's startled because he's with a beautiful, busty woman who is also in the buff. Sarah starts to cry. Then she runs away. She returns to San Francisco. Sarah and Bobby never cross paths again. Good. Sarah and Bobby never cross paths again. Okay, very good. Please pause and tell all of the story again. Tell the entire story. Try to use all the new phrases and vocabulary. All right, I will see you next time. When you finish, go to the point of view story. Bye-bye. Okay, let's get started. It's the point of view mini stories for the Nuddist lesson. Are you ready? First, we're going to go back to the past, last week. Last week, Sarah longed for a fella named Bobby. She loved him deeply. But Bobby lived in Norway, and Sarah lived in San Francisco. Sarah thought about Bobby every day and felt unsettled. Finally, she decided she must see him to be happy. She flew to Norway to retrieve him and bring him back to San Francisco. She spotted him at a beach. She wanted to run to him, but she hesitated because he was in the buff. She was shocked and startled because he was with a beautiful, busty woman who was also in the buff. Sarah started to cry. Then she ran away. She returned to San Francisco just yesterday. Sarah and Bobby never crossed paths again. All right, very nice. Let's do another one now. We're going to start with since middle school. Since middle school for version number 2. Since middle school, Sarah has longed for a fella named Bobby. She has loved him deeply all that time since middle school until now. But Bobby has lived in Norway for 10 years, and Sarah has lived in San Francisco. Every day, Sarah has thought about Bobby and has felt unsettled. Well, finally one day, she decided she must see him to be happy. So she flew to Norway to retrieve him and bring him back to San Francisco. She spotted him at a beach one day. She wanted to run to him, but she hesitated because he was in the buff. She was shocked and startled because he was with a beautiful, busty woman who was also in the buff. Sarah started to cry. Then she ran away. She returned to San Francisco. Sarah and Bobby never crossed paths again. Okay, as always, you can see this happens a lot when we start with since middle school, since 1 year ago. Often we have to switch to the past tense again when we talk about a specific event. Right? Specific events usually start, they happen, and then they stop. It's all finished in the past. When we talk about one day or 1 week or one time, well, that tells you, time to use the past. But if we say since middle school, since 2006, until 5 years ago, well, then that tells us, maybe we better start using have gone, or has gone, or had gone. Okay, third version. Let's go to the future, into the future. Into the future, next year, here's my idea for a story. It's a story that will happen next year. There will be a woman named Sarah. Sarah will long for a fella named Bobby. She'll love him deeply. But Bobby will live in Norway, and Sarah will live in San Francisco. Every day, Sarah will think about Bobby, and she'll feel unsettled. Finally, she'll decide she must see him to be happy. She'll fly to Norway to retrieve him and bring him back to San Francisco. She'll spot him at a beach. She'll want to run to him, but she'll hesitate because he'll be in the buff. She'll be shocked and startled because he'll also be with a beautiful, busty woman who'll be in the buff. Sarah'll start to cry. Then she'll run away. She'll return to San Francisco. Sarah and Bobby will never cross paths again. All right, those are our 3 versions. Please listen to them many times. When you understand them, when you know them well, pause after each version and tell all of the story yourself. Tell it starting with last week or last year or 10 years ago. That's version 1. And then tell it again starting with since middle school or since high school or since 2002. That's version number 2. And then tell it again in the future, next year, in the year 2010, or next month. Okay, practice all 3 versions, and that's all. Parents deny probable cause of son's obsessive behavior. Dear Abby, my nephew, Vincent, is 16 and has had problems with obsessive hand-washing for years. I have enough professional experience to strongly suspect that he suffers from obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. My brother and his wife refuse to believe their child has a problem and will not take him to get help. My nephew's hands are chafed and raw, and his parents reprimand him for this behavior when he really needs professional help. His mother is the biggest problem. She nixes all issues that suggest a problem, and my brother will not stand up to her. What can I do? Signed, Worried Aunt in Florida. Hi, welcome to the commentary for obsessive behavior. And this is an interesting little Dear Abby letter, quite short. In fact, I was thinking about the different levels of our members. Most of you are advanced learners. You have to be advanced just to read my homepage in my newsletter and understand it. So most of you are advanced. Probably Dear Abby is pretty easy for you. But some of you are at a lower level. I would say probably an intermediate level. And for you, I think the Dear Abby lessons are much better. The article lessons, the main articles, can be very difficult for some people, especially for intermediate level learners. And some of you have complained to me, in fact, that, AJ, these articles are much too difficult for me. If that's the case, if that's true, I recommend focusing on the Dear Abby lessons and the pronunciation lessons instead. They're easier and they're shorter. So even if it is a little bit difficult, there's still not so much new language to learn like the articles can possibly be. So for the intermediate level members, I recommend focus on Dear Abby. It's a great level for you. And for the advanced learners, I recommend also using Dear Abby, but in a different way. You'll still learn some new phrases, especially casual English phrases. But you can also use it to really go deeply with some things that you may already know. Focus on the mini stories and the point of view mini stories. and really get this to go deeply by listening again and again and again, many, many times. You all know the past tense, for example. However, when you speak, many of you may make mistakes with the past tense. You may use the present tense when you should use the past. I know many of my San Francisco students do this. Now, if I give them a test, they will all do very well on the past tense. Yet, when we actually speak, they don't use it. What's the problem here? Well, the problem is knowing and doing are totally different. Knowing is a left brain activity. It's an analytical activity. It means you analyze, you break it apart, you think about it. That's one kind of knowledge. But using a language, being able to speak English fluently, is a different kind of knowledge. It's more like playing a sport. Okay, you can know about basketball, you can study basketball. It does not mean you can actually play basketball, right? Studying basketball and playing basketball are totally different. Well, it's the same thing with English. Studying about English, learning the rules, conjugating verbs, taking tests, that is totally different than using English, speaking English fluently, understanding quickly, speaking quickly and correctly. Totally different than studying the grammar and taking the tests. This is why I think that obsessive test taking and obsessing about English in general is very, very bad. I have a lot of students in San Francisco, for example, who obsess about the TOEFL test. That's why my little mini story, it's kind of a joke about those students. Not a mean joke, it's a nice joke. But it's true. There are a lot of students like this. In Japan, oh my God, so many students like this. They're focused on the TOEIC or the TOEFL or the university exam or a grad school exam, but it's always a test. A lot of the people don't seem to care about actually learning English and using it. Or about countries that speak English, America or Australia or England. They're not interested in the cultures or the people or communication. It's just this damn test. And they think that if they focus on the test and they do well on the test, that means, now I can use English. Now I can speak English. And they're always very shocked that even if they get a good score on the test, when they actually try to understand Americans, for example, they can't. They can't. So many students come here to San Francisco. They have a good TOEFL exam. They go on to the street, and someone chats with them, talks with them at a bus stop, and they're confused, and they don't know what they're saying. And when they try to talk, they speak very slowly. They can't remember. They're trying to conjugate verbs and translate. Their pronunciation is terrible, and Americans don't understand them. They try to say something, and Americans are confused. What? Huh? What? Huh? And that's a terrible feeling. I know. I had that feeling in Thailand. I would try to use Thai. People could not understand me. I became very upset and frustrated. So you have to separate these ideas. They're different. This idea of studying English, learning the rules, memorizing the grammar, and taking tests. That's one thing. And then the other thing is speaking English fluently, using it correctly, knowing the grammar deep down, feeling what is correct. Feeling, not knowing, feeling when something sounds correct and when it sounds wrong. Speaking with good pronunciation. Speaking without translating. Now that is a different kind of knowledge. It's a skill. And they don't mix very much. The test-taking, analyzing, memorizing part, it's good if you want to, get a PhD and talk about English in your own language. But it's not very good if you actually want to use English. So you've got to focus on using English. And if you want to use English well, just do not obsess about tests. The students who obsess about the TOEFL exam, for example, they're always my worst students. I mean, 95% of the time, when I have a student who is obsessed is kind of the emotion, or I can use it as a verb, to obsess. So if I have a student who obsesses, using it as a verb, who obsesses about the TOEFL exam, for example, I know they're probably going to be quite low. And I also know they're going to learn very slowly. Because if they obsess about the test, that's all they will focus on. And when they obsess about the test, it makes them use different kinds of study methods. What do? Well, they study grammar, so much grammar, grammar books. What else do? They go buy those TOEFL test books, and they take practice TOEFL tests again and again and again. And that's all they do. And that's not natural English, and it's a terrible way to learn a language in general, any language. So, in fact, their TOEFL scores do not improve a lot. Their general speaking ability does not improve at all, usually. And then what else happens? I have another person in my class who just really interested in American culture. They really like being here, and they really want to meet people, and they're excited, and wow, English is interesting, and oh, I love English movies, and oh, American books and are really kind of cool, and oh, they like certain movies and music and culture and blah, blah, blah. Those people learn very quickly. They learn fast. Why? Well, number one, they're listening a lot. They're listening to American movies all the time. They're making American friends, so they're listening to Americans speak English constantly. These people usually study on their own in a different way. They listen to podcasts. They listen to these kinds of lessons on Effortless English. They listen to TV shows. That's how they study. The funny thing is that these people also improve on their TOEFL exams, and they improve faster than the people who are obsessed with the TOEFL. And that makes the TOEFL people so frustrated and angry sometimes, right? Here they are, they're studying the TOEFL exam, they're focused on the TOEFL, they're obsessed with the TOEFL. And somebody else is having fun, and the person who has fun improves faster, and they get a better TOEFL score. And they get so upset, some of these students. And they come to me, AJ, oh, my TOEFL, I took it again, and it didn't improve very much. Why am I not getting better? And Seiko over here, she's having fun and making friends and just listening to movies and podcasts, and she did better than me. I don't understand. And then I tell them, well, I try to explain the Effortless English method. I try to explain research. But unfortunately, these students, they obsess so much. They're so obsessed with the exam. They can't hear me. They will. It's frustrating for me. I try to tell them, please study in a different way. Learn in a different way. You will have more fun. Your speaking will improve. And you will even do better on the TOEFL exam than you are now. But they don't listen. The students who are really obsessed about exams, they will not listen. It's like a mental disease. I don't know. It's kind of like some kind of craziness. They're so obsessed. It's all they can think about. So I tell them, try the other method. Try Seiko's method. It's working for her. But they won't listen. They'll say, yeah, okay. And the next day I see them. They have their TOEFL exam book, and they're studying the grammar again. And then 2 months later, they take the TOEFL exam, and oh no, I didn't improve very much. Oh, they come back to me. AJ, what should I do? It's the same conversation every time. I have this one student who's Korean who has been doing this for over 1 year. Over 1 year, obsessed with the TOEFL exam, takes the test, does not improve enough, comes back to me, complains, AJ, my TOEFL's not good enough. What should I do? Every time I tell her, well, you should listen to podcasts. You should read interesting books that you like for fun. all the effortless English methods that you know. I tell her, please do this. It will help you. Trust me. And every time she says, and then she ignores me. And she uses the same method again. I see her using her TOEFL book, studying grammar. And then 2 months later, she takes the TOEFL test again. And then, oh God, AJ, my TOEFL test, it didn't go up enough. I didn't improve very much. What should I do? What's wrong? I mean, again and again. This has been happening for 1 year, and she still will not change her methods. And this is really a form of insanity, of craziness. When you keep doing the same thing, and you keep getting a bad result, and you keep using the same method, and you think, maybe this time my result will be different. But again, you get the same result. It's a kind of craziness. And I don't know why, but these exams, these tests can sometimes make people crazy like this. So my advice to you, if you need the TOEFL exam, it's okay. Some of you need it. Some of you want to study grad school in America, for example. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But don't obsess about the test. It will hurt you. You will learn more slowly if you do that. Use the effortless English methods. I guarantee you will learn faster than people who are taking TOEFL classes and studying TOEFL books. Your TOEFL scores will improve better and more and faster than the people who are studying the TOEFL test. I promise you. This is not just my opinion. There's a lot of research about this. The people who focus on the test actually do worse on the test. The people who use effortless methods also do better on tests like the TOEFL exam or the TOEIC. So, you have more fun. You learn faster. You do better on the tests. Your pronunciation is better. You become more fluent. Everything is better if you use an effortless system. So don't obsess about these tests, please. Put your TOEFL books to the side. Put away your grammar books. Use an effortless method, and you will do much better. All right. There's another pep talk for today, I guess. That's the end of the commentary for obsessive behavior. I'll see you on the next lesson. Bye-bye. Okay, welcome to the mini story for the obsessive behavior lesson. Let's get started. Kathy always obsesses about English. She constantly worries about taking the TOEFL test. When she worries, she always rubs her hands together. They are always chafed. Her friend, Gabriel, is the opposite. He always opts to remain relaxed. He always reprimands Kathy. Kathy, stop obsessing about English, damn it! Kathy never stands up to Gabriel directly. She just says, I'm sorry, please don't be mad. Then she says, but let's go to the library now and study English, please. Gabriel always nixes this idea. Hell no! We're not studying English! Kathy feels unsettled, but she says, hesitantly, okay. However, in her head, she silently starts to review English grammar. Then she feels much better. Okay, again, this time with questions. Back to the top. Kathy always obsesses about English. Does she think about English all the time? Yes, that's right. She always thinks about English. Does she think about English in the morning? Yeah, that's right. She always obsesses about English in the morning. Does she think about English during the day? Yes, that's right. She's obsessing about English, right? Always obsesses about English. So she thinks about English in the morning, in the afternoon, at night, before she goes to sleep. She obsesses about English. Does she obsess about French? No. She doesn't care about French. She doesn't always think about French. She obsesses about English. Who always obsesses about English? Well, Kathy always obsesses about English. Does Gabriel always obsess about English? No, no. Gabriel doesn't always obsess about English. Kathy always obsesses about English. She constantly worries about taking the TOEFL test. Does she obsess about the TOEFL test? Yes, she's always obsessed with the TOEFL test. She always obsesses about the TOEFL test. When she worries, she always rubs her hands together. Right? She's always rubbing her hands together when she worries about English, when she obsesses about English. Because she always rubs her hands together, they are always chafed. Are her hands always red? Yes, that's right. Her hands are always chafed. The skin is always red. Is the skin always a little painful? Yeah, that's right. Her hands are always chafed, so her hands are always a little painful. The skin is painful. The skin is a little bit red. Why are her hands always chafed? Well, they're always chafed because she rubs them together when she worries about English. Are they chafed because she washes her hands too much? No, that's not why they're chafed. Her hands are not chafed because she washes her hands too much. They're chafed because she rubs her hands together too much. They're chafed because she rubs her hands together. That's why they're red and painful. Now, her friend Gabriel is the opposite. He always opts to remain relaxed. Does he choose to remain relaxed? Yeah, that's right. He opts to be relaxed. He chooses to be relaxed. To opt to means to choose. Now, we usually use opt to with an action. Opt to run. Opt to go shopping. Opt to stay relaxed. It goes with a verb. If you're choosing two things, if you have a red phone and a blue phone, you don't say, I opt the red phone. You might say, I opt for the red phone. If you say that, then it's okay. But usually we use it with verbs. You opt to do something. I opt to buy the red phone. We would say that. That would be okay. So he opts to stay relaxed. Does Kathy opt to stay relaxed? Does she choose to be relaxed? No, Kathy does not opt to stay relaxed. She always opts to be worried. She always obsesses about English. But Gabriel opts to remain relaxed. He chooses to remain relaxed. And he always reprimands Kathy. Does he criticize Kathy's obsession? Obsession's a noun. Does he criticize Kathy's obsession, Kathy's worrying? Yeah, that's right. He reprimands Kathy. Does he tell her she's wrong, that she's doing something bad? Yeah, that's right. He reprimands Kathy. He tells her, stop obsessing about English. Damn it. Right? He reprimands her. He criticizes her and tells her she's doing something wrong. Does Gabriel reprimand his mother? No, Gabriel does not reprimand his mother. Who does Gabriel reprimand? Gabriel reprimands Kathy. Why does he reprimand Kathy? Well, he reprimands Kathy because she worries about English too much. She obsesses about English. Does he reprimand Kathy all the time? Well, no, he doesn't reprimand Kathy all the time. When does he reprimand Kathy? Well, he reprimands Kathy when she talks about English, when she wants to study English, and when she rubs her hands together. Then he reprimands her. How does he reprimand her? What does he say? Well, he reprimands her by saying, Kathy, stop obsessing about English, damn it. But Kathy never stands up to Gabriel. Does Kathy argue with Gabriel? No, she does not stand up to Gabriel. Does she disagree with Gabriel directly? No, she never says something to him. She never disagrees. She never argues. She does not stand up to Gabriel. Does Kathy stand up to other people? Well, we don't know. Maybe she stands up to other people. Maybe she will argue with her mom or her other friends. But she won't stand up to Gabriel. When Gabriel reprimands her, does she stand up to him? No, she doesn't. She does not stand up to Gabriel. He says, "Stop obsessing about English." Well, she doesn't argue with him. What does she say? Since she doesn't stand up to him, she just says, "I'm sorry. Please don't be mad." But then later she says, let's go to the library now and study English, please." Gabriel gets angry. He always nixes this idea. Does Gabriel agree with the idea? No, he nixes the idea, right? He shoots the idea down. He destroys the idea. He immediately says no. He says, "No, we are not studying English." He nixes the idea. Does he nix all of Kathy's ideas? No, he doesn't nix all of Kathy's ideas. He only nixes her idea to study English. When she wants to study English, he always nixes the idea. He always says no immediately. No, we're not studying English. Does Gabriel nix Bob's idea? No. He doesn't nix Bob's idea. He nixes Kathy's idea, right? Gabriel nixes Kathy's idea, not Bob's idea. And when he nixes her idea, what does he say? Well, Gabriel always nixes the idea and says, "Hell no, we're not studying English." How does Kathy feel when this happens? Well, Kathy feels unsettled, right? She feels a little strange, a little uncomfortable. Does she feel very, very, very upset? No, she doesn't. She feels just unsettled, a little upset. And then when she feels unsettled, she says hesitantly, "Okay, it's okay." However, in her head, silently in her head, she is thinking about grammar, and she is reviewing English grammar. Then she feels much better. When she says okay, does she say it strongly and quickly? No, she does not. She says it hesitantly. She stops and she starts. She's not sure. She says, okay. She says it hesitantly, right? When Kathy says okay, she does not say it directly. She says it very, very hesitantly. What does she say hesitantly? Well, she says, okay, hesitantly. All right. So let's go back to the top again. And this time I'm going to pause after key phrases. Please copy my pronunciation. Remember, this is not just repeating words. Repeating words does not help. You need to copy my pronunciation. When I go up, you should go up. When I go down, you should go down. Copy my intonation very carefully. Okay, let's go to the top. Here we go. Kathy always obsesses about English. Good. Kathy always obsesses about English. She constantly worries about taking the TOEFL test. When she worries, she always rubs her hands together. They are always chafed. Good. They are always chafed. Her friend Gabriel is the opposite. He always opts to remain relaxed. He always opts to remain relaxed. Good. He always reprimands Kathy. He always reprimands Kathy. He says, "Stop obsessing about English, damn it." He says, "Stop obsessing about English, damn it." Good. Kathy never stands up to Gabriel. Kathy never stands up to Gabriel. She just says, "I'm sorry, don't be mad." Then she says, But, let's go to the library now and study English, please. Gabriel always nixes this idea. Gabriel always nixes this idea. He says, hell no, we're not studying English. Kathy feels unsettled. Kathy feels unsettled. But she says, hesitantly, okay. But she says, hesitantly, okay. However, in her head, quietly, she starts to review English grammar. Then she feels much better. Okay, that is all for this mini story. Please pause now and try to tell all of the story yourself. Say it out loud, not silently. Say it out loud, speak it out loud. Try to tell all of the story using the new vocabulary and also using the correct pronunciation, the correct intonation. If this is difficult, if you cannot do it, no problem. Just listen again, listen again, listen again. Listening is most important. Okay, good luck. On to the point of view mini stories. Bye-bye. Okay, welcome to the point of view mini stories for obsessive behavior. Let's get started. Same story, now with 3 different versions. The first version, 20 years ago. 20 years ago, there was a woman named Kathy. Kathy always obsessed about English. She constantly worried about taking the TOEFL test. When she worried, she always rubbed her hands together. They were always chafed. Her friend Gabriel was the opposite. He always opted to remain relaxed. He always reprimanded Kathy and said, "Kathy, stop obsessing about English, damn it." Kathy never stood up to Gabriel. She just said, "I'm sorry, don't be mad." Then she said, "But let's go to the library now and study English, please." Gabriel always nixed this idea. He'd say, "Hell no, we're not studying English." Kathy felt unsettled, but she said, hesitantly, okay. However, in her mind, she would silently start to review English grammar. Then she always felt much better. All right, let's do the next version. The next version will start with since last year. Okay, there's a woman named Kathy. Since last year, she has obsessed about English. She has constantly worried about taking the TOEFL test. When she's worried, she has always rubbed her hands together. They have been chafed every day since last year. Her friend Gabriel has been the opposite. He has always opted to remain relaxed. He has reprimanded Kathy every time she worries and has said, "Stop obsessing about English, damn it!" Kathy has never stood up to Gabriel. She has always said, "I'm sorry, don't be mad at me." Then she's always said, "But let's go to the library now and study English, please." Gabriel has always nixed this idea. He's always said, "Hell no, we're not studying English." And Kathy has always felt unsettled. And she's always said, hesitantly, okay. However, in her head, she has started to review English grammar every time. Then she has always felt much better. Okay, now did you notice I used the word always a lot in that version? Always, always, always. Why? Why did I always say always? Well, it's because I'm talking about something that started in the past and has continued until now. So I want to say always because I want to make clear that I'm not talking about one specific time, right? I have a conversation here. Kathy, stop obsessing about English, damn it, right? He says this, she says that. Well, if this only happened one time in the past, we would use the simple past, right? I would say, Gabriel said, "Stop obsessing about English." Kathy said, "I'm sorry." But this is a conversation that has happened many times. They always have the same conversation since last year. So 10 months ago, they would have this conversation. And then 5 months ago, they would use the same conversation again, right? So always, almost every day, starting 1 year ago until now, they're always having this same conversation. So that's why I say has said, has always said. Always makes it more clear that it's not something that happened one time, that it's happening repeatedly, has happened repeatedly, starting last year until now. If it was only one time, it would be the past tense. But since it has happened many times, starting last year until now, then we can say has said, has done, etc. Okay. Last version begins with next year. There's a girl named Kathy. Next year, she will always obsess about English because next year she has to take the TOEFL test. Now, when she'll worry, she'll always rub her hands together. They're always going to be chafed. Her friend Gabriel will be the opposite. He'll always opt to remain relaxed. He'll always reprimand Kathy and say, "Kathy, stop obsessing about English, damn it." Kathy will never stand up to Gabriel. She'll just say, "I'm sorry, don't be mad." Then she'll say, "But let's go to the library now and study English, please." Gabriel will always nix this idea. He'll always say, "Hell no, we're not studying English." Kathy will feel unsettled, but she'll say, hesitantly, "Oh, okay." However, in her mind, she'll silently begin to review English grammar. Then she'll feel much better. Okay, those are our 3 versions. Please pause now. Try to tell each version. So 20 years ago, since last year, and next year, 3 versions. If you can't do it, it's okay. Listen to one version again. Listen many times, then pause, try to tell that version. And then do it again with the second version, and then again with the third one. Just listen, listen, listen. Listening is the most important thing. Do not become worried and stressed about perfect grammar. Don't obsess about grammar. Don't be like Kathy, right? Don't obsess about correctness. Don't obsess about being perfect. That is not the purpose of this lesson. Listening is the number one thing you should do. If you feel relaxed, then okay, pause and try to tell each version yourself. If you feel stressed, don't do that. Just listen. Okay, that's all. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.